I did a Titanium mine where I talked about Skull and Bones, and then I contrasted that with Sail Forth, which is a much smaller indie game that also is all set on the high seas when you're in a ship. And frankly, Sail Forth, I think, did a better job. I want to tell you about something interesting that came across my feed the other day, which is that May 9th, a day that shall live in infamy, I guess, was a day that was incredibly large for indie games, and there were at least 10 that were noteworthy that were released on the exact same day. And this comes, of course, at around the same time that we had that little thing that happened with Microsoft, where they shuttered studios, which is a whole other thing. But while basically while a lot of like the AAA studios are starting to shutter projects, indie games seem to be having a nice resurgence, and so which is good, because I think most of the games that I've played recently that I actually enjoyed were more independent titles than large studio projects. So that is something.
I think a lot of mine, too, were definitely not what you consider AAA.
I just found that it was more interesting, some of the ones that came up recently. I mean, one of the ones that I liked a lot that came up was like Pesticides Not Included or Not Recommended, Required. Can never even remember. Pesticides Not Required, which was, kind of a Vampire Survivors sort of game. And I mean, even Vampire Survivors by itself is in that genre. A few of the ones I think that are probably going to be the most impressive are, one, Little Kitty Big City, which you saw
that just
me.
Came out.
Yeah, you saw me do a demo of that.
My son wants it.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass, so I'm actually going to be playing it soon, I think. Maybe we'll do it on a live episode. I don't think I can wait that long. Sorry.
That's fine.
That's okay. And I think the other big one that most people were talking about was Animal Well. One of the reasons why Animal Well gets a lot of press right now, it's a Metroidvania-style pixel art game, but it also is really the first game that came out from Big Mode, which is Video Game Donkey's publishing company.
Sure.
So this is the first project that they've actually been able to put out. There's a few others in there. I will leave a link to a list that is more complete. But the fact is that somebody, and by somebody I actually mean Ryan Brown, was able to compile a whole thread of 10 of them that came out on the same day. And that is not even including other ones like Hades 2, which was released just this last week.
Right.
Quite an impressive thing. Also, DLC for Vampire Survivors, as I was
Also,
mentioning.
V-Rising just came out in full 1.0.
One that I have been meaning to play for quite a while, and never got around to, so who knows, this might be the time to do it. Quite a few good ones that are coming out right now, and I really just more or less wanted to cite that they were coming out with some reasonably good titles that are really a fraction of the cost, but also made by smaller studios that are innovative and interesting and
that are worth supporting in a lot of cases.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that they are worth supporting because, again, so many of the games that I found that were really interesting of the last year or two have been very small projects, and I've started to step away a lot more from the large-scale games, which I don't know how many we've actually played. I guess the only ones I can really talk about, we've played Helldivers and we played Pal World this year.
Pal World wasn't a big name.
It really wasn't. It really wasn't.
There's a lot of money put into it, but it was not. It was an independent studio. Pocket Bear is not AAA by any means.
No, it certainly isn't. And then everything else, I want to say pretty much everything else that I actually played this year, at least, has been smaller games. Some of them completely free games, actually.
Yeah. I mean, do we consider FromSoft independent? I think they publish their own games, right?
I believe they publish their own games. I mean,
So technically independent, like fairly well known though. Because
Yeah.
Armored Core I played, and
sure.
that's not, again, it's not. I wouldn't consider FromSoft AAA, although they are recognized and loved.
They are
you
thought
play
of
Elden
that
Ring.
way. Yeah, they're thought of that way. They're a fairly large studio. I mean,
I guess.
a lot of the indie games that you see now are practically just like a team of 5 or less in a lot of cases. Another Crab's Treasure, which was Aggro Crab, came out recently as well. I've tooled around a little bit with it. It's the Souls-inspired one where you play a crab.
And you can strap a Glock 9 to your back.
See, that's the mode I actually want to play for Another Crab's Treasure, is the one where you just give Krill a gun.
It's the accessibility option that everyone needs.
Yeah, it really is, and it's also hilarious.
Yes.
Because I can tell you, having played some of Another Crab's Treasure, it is not easy. It is actually a fairly difficult game. I don't know what you've been playing recently, but I'm gonna guess that they weren't like major title games.
I mean, aside from like the World of Warcraft that I play off and on consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not really. I haven't really been playing anything huge. Forza, I played for a couple minutes, but then wasn't really into it. But yeah, most of the games I've played recently have not been giant games. I can't think of what I've played recently is the issue. I mean, I did get that Humble Bundle farming game one and played some of them, but I...
Oh, you did? I already had a few of those, so I didn't get it.
Yeah, I was like, let's try these out. And then I was like, oh, okay, actually, these aren't entertaining me the way I was hoping.
The one that keeps showing up on those bundles that I've already played was No Place Like Home. Which
I did play that for a bit, and
yes.
It didn't really click for me. Like, I was like, there's nothing offensive about this, but nothing that really caught me.
Basically, my side note on No Place Like Home is that it would be really great. There's a real high focus on just sucking up trash. if it weren't for the fact that there's just a huge focus on constantly sucking up trash, it's relaxing. I guess it's kind of a zen thing to do, and then destroy the scorpion bots. But besides that, it's fine. Ones that have actually kept me more occupied this last month at least were, let's see, Wall World, Dismantle, which is one I just picked up, and Beyond Contact. None of those I can really say are big games or from big studios. Those are much smaller projects, but very well done ones that have interesting stuff going on with them. It's at the point, really, where I don't even know what the large studios are working on.
Yeah.
and I don't know if I care. So
yeah, Helldivers is probably the biggest studio game that I've played in a while.
Yeah. Same.
And Helldivers, again, is delightful, honestly.
Helldivers
Aside
is great.
From Sony being dumb.
Since I don't actually have to make a PlayStation account, and they didn't, and they did indeed go back on that like I thought they would, then yes, it is delightful, and it's fun to pick up and just do a mission, or two missions, and just like do the individual stuff. But besides that, I can't even think of stuff that's on the horizon from a lot of the larger studios. Especially now, because so many of the studios that they had working on fun things are getting shuttered. So I don't even know what's really coming out from major studios now.
Yeah. For me, the only like large name that has anything that's coming out that I'm interested in is the expansion for World of Warcraft that's coming up in August.
Right. So
or November.
So the one thing you're interested in is is an expansion for a product that's 20 years old now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah. Because that's new and that's exciting to me to see what they're gonna do and what happens. So that's exciting to me. Apart from that, maybe Frostpunk 2 when that comes out.
Sure.
But that's again not a huge name.
It's not a huge one.
Greedfall 2 whenever that comes out, I guess.
Spiders
Spiders
is a fairly good sized company, but it's not really a AAA company. It's more of a AA as far as they have. Doesn't mean that they do bad work though.
Oh, and then later on in the year, Space Marine 2. So a lot of sequels.
Sequels, yeah.
Yeah.
Sequelitis.
Which is not new, just newer.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why people were annoyed that we're seeing the close of studios that made things like Hi-Fi Rush or Rollerdrome, which is one I tried recently too, is that those were like unique new IPs that were trying
rather
something
successful,
new.
too.
Yeah, rather successful and acclaimed. Also, like Prey, because Arcane Austin was going to get shuttered, and that was they made Prey as well. And so it's those were interesting, innovative games that were supposed to be new and fresh and interesting. Then the studios are like, nah, we're just going to make sequels.
I think it's the parents of the studios too, so it's not like the people who made our Hi-Fi Rush, for instance, aren't the ones who are like, nah, it's their overlords.
No, it wasn't Tango that said, I don't want to make another Hi-Fi Rush. It was that Microsoft said, no, you're not going to make another Hi-Fi Rush or anything else.
It's one of those things, like, we're not going to get deep into the weeds on that, but, we've noticed over the last year or so that the gaming industry has lost a lot of, I think, financial backing from investors, maybe? Or whatever. Other people that are more intelligent than us about this thing can go into detail about that, but you've noticed that a lot of money that the games industry had just been pumping into it is getting sucked back up dry. And I think it has to do with the recovery from the pandemic, where apparently money was just free for a lot of places.
Partially.
Or at least what I've heard is they were just giving money to business to help everything stay afloat, and now it's suddenly not available, so they're like, guess we gotta close all these things doing these projects.
Yeah, and I think it's also partially because there's a lot of studios that want efficiency. You have the mergers of different companies coming together and they make a larger conglomerate, and then they start thinking to themselves, let's play it safe. And so that's why you end up with lots of sequels, because it's like, well, the sequel the Halo performed really well, so we can assume that the next 10 Halos are going to do okay if we just keep making the Halo game.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Call of Duty keeps pumping out games, so I guess it works.
When it comes to the larger studios, I haven't seen a lot that really interests me as much as it used to. And frankly, after trying the first quadruple A game, I don't know how much I really care. I did a Titanium Mine, you probably didn't see it, but I did a Titanium Mine where I talked about Skull and Bones, and then I contrasted that with Sail Forth, which is a much smaller indie game that also is all set on the high seas when you're in a ship. And frankly, Sail Forth, I think, did a better job, honestly. Yeah. And was more and was more colorful and entertaining, and probably had a fraction of the budget and a fraction of the staff working on it. Just a short segment, really, to talk about the fact that it is a good time to try out new indie games from smaller studios, usually just with a handful of people that are trying to do these by themselves, because they are coming out in larger numbers than I have previously seen. And I think it's worth supporting them for that reason alone, if something interests you. And those 10 games, by the way, I should mention, really span the genres. Some that are more like Little Nightmares, and some that are more the farming sims. A lot of different games that are in different genres, so it might be worth checking it out. I will leave a link to it down below if you want to check out that thread and see if anything interests you. Most of them are on Steam, so you can get to them on PC. I think one of them might be on Switch, but feel free, check it out. And I guess let us know if there's any games that you're particularly interested in, especially ones that I would not necessarily know about, because it feels like there's plenty of games that are out there that are worth playing that most of us just didn't see or didn't get onto our radar. So I would be interested to know what is out there that I'm not already currently aware of. Give me your obscure recommendation.
Give Nathan the games you think he should play.
Yes.
And he will play them. Allegedly.
Allegedly.